And hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Kpush podcast. We're at episode 153. 153. That's pretty good. Pretty good, if you ask me. We were supposed to upload yesterday. I recorded a podcast with the Dominic, the Dominator, as he likes to call himself. And, you know, he threw, I don't know what other way to say this, but he kind of threw a tantrum, like a 10-year-old tantrum, like how a 10-year-old would react when you take away his toy. That's kind of how Dominic reacted for 45 minutes on a podcast. And I thought it was entertaining. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was fantastic, even. I thought it might have been our best podcast that we've ever recorded, truly. It might have been the only podcast where Dominic was authentically himself. But for reasons, Dominic didn't want it uploaded. He has a show coming up on Friday, so he didn't want to bomb twice in 1 week, which I sort of understand that, right? You don't want to bomb twice in 1 week. So it's not here. This is what you're getting. I know you would love to see Dominic throw a temper tantrum, but unfortunately, you're getting me throw a temper tantrum on this podcast. So I deeply apologize for that, for you not getting what you deserve, really, by being a loyal fan to this podcast, really. I mean, it's just, you don't even understand the struggles you go through. So I deeply apologize for that. You'll probably see it. You'll probably, I'm going to upload it, okay? I don't know how else to sugarcoat this. It's being uploaded at some point. It's too good. Okay, it's too good. It's too representative of what goes on here, of what I sort of have to deal with. Can I say that? And so, yeah, it's just not this week, unfortunately. You know, down the line, we don't really know. But, you know, that's my girlfriend right there. That's what she is. And she's grabbing her guitar. That's what she's doing, because she's a musician. She's a rock star. Speaking of being rock stars, right, there's, something's going on in the music industry. And I want to just dive right in on this, because there's not a whole lot going on with the news, quite frankly. There's not a whole lot going on with the news. The world is sort of in a very calm, collective state right now after COVID. There's been a lot of recovery. And I'm glad that our nations have come together and sort of united in peace and decided that we're not going to do heinous acts of warfare throughout the entire world. So I'm glad that, there's nothing to really talk about on this podcast. That is sort of a boring place right now to be. And I'm just glad that the most interesting thing for me to talk about is Lil Yachty. Little Yachty. He's the most interesting person right now on earth. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, Lil Yachty, the musician, the talented musician, may I add, has come out, very brave, may I add. That's not the article that's supposed to come up. That's for later. That's okay. Lil Yachty says hip-hop is in a terrible place right now. Addresses Grammy's snub. And, Lil Yachty is right. The Grammys were great before this year. It's just this year that the Grammys have sort of done an oopsie, and every previous year before this one, the Grammys have always been amazing. Can I say that? Can I say the Grammys were fucking incredible until this year, which Lil Yachty has come out in such a brave act and said that it might not be all that great. He's going, hey, it might not be that good for hip-hop right now. It just might not be. And Lil Yachty has contributed. There might be some people on here that don't know Lil Yachty, which is just insane. But he had that, that one song in 2016 called Broccoli. It's called Broccoli. It might be the best song of all time. I'm not going to lie. It might be the greatest combination of beats and rhythms and lyrics all put together in a song. It's up there with, it's compared to, not by me, but by music critics, from Bohemian Rhapsody, Stairway to Heaven, all these great, fantastic songs. Broccoli is like right there. It's like right there. The song, it goes like, hey, little mama, let me be a sunshine, when that's your game. It's that song. And it, as some kids would say, it slaps. Okay, as my generation would say, Broccoli slaps. That's what they would say, is they would look you in the eye and go, yeah, Lil Yachty, he might not have the best lyrics, which I personally disagree with. Majorly disagree with that. But some music critics have said that Lil Yachty lacks in the lyrics department. But I look at them as a member of Gen Z and stare right into their souls of their face. And I say, yes, but Broccoli slaps. So what are you gonna argue against that? I think he has an album called Lil Boat. He calls it Lil Boat, and I want to come out and say Lil Boat slaps. I don't give a fuck if you went to college for music. Gay, number one. Don't go to college for music. That's gay. But I know when something slaps. Okay, and Lil Boat slaps, as one from my generation would say. So Lil Yachty has come out, the master musician that he is, and said, hip-hop is in a terrible place right now. And he's in no way contributed to this downfall of hip-hop. I want to say this. Lil Yachty has not contributed to any downfall of the hip-hop scene at all. And he's kept it pristine and has tried his hardest and has put forth the most effort of any hip-hop artist in the last 10 years. I just got to say that. And we needed this. We needed Lil Yacht to come out and speak on this issue. Because, quite frankly, all other art, other than like podcasting and stand-up comedy, is kind of on a downhill. A little bit. It's just a little bit. The only other thing going on, other than Lil Yachty talking about this, is the SAG strike, right? Again, there's nothing else going on in the world, and we're at a very peaceful place in our time, and I'm glad that most of the nations in the world have come together and decided that we need some time and some healing from COVID. So we're kind of, chilling, other than the SAG strike and Lil Yachty talking shit about the Grammys, which, of course, he has a right to do so. And, I just want to say is, like, movies have kind of been on a downhill ever since Marvel got involved in 2008. So that's kind of been on the trajectory, you get what word I'm trying to say, has been on the direction of kind of falling downhill. Just a slight bit. Is that okay? Since fucking Robert Downey Jr. came out from the caves of blackface and decided to star as Iron Man, it's been a little downhill. It's been a little downhill. Just a little. The quality of movies isn't what it once was. Now, again, there is, because I've heard this argument go back and forth with movies, where it's like, no, there actually is still amazing movies. There's just more movies being made, which means more worse movies are going to be made. And worse movies were always going to be made. But that kind of is true to an extent, because you're not really seeing new directors come up anymore. You're just not. Unless they're already having a career in something else, it's very, very rare for the studios to sort of give a director or somebody who's not a director a chance to make a new project, to make a new movie. It's sort of it's rare. Netflix was doing it through the time period of like 2013 to 2017, where they were giving every single human being who wanted a fucking Netflix special to get a fucking Netflix one season, one off, which just kind of crammed the entire Netflix library of just sort of shitty one season spin-off shows, or just one season shows of God knows what. There's a show called The Ranch, where I guess they were on a ranch, and that was sort of the whole plot line. So, and then you have the SAG strike, right? So that it's kind of done. Movies, television shows, they're kind of out a little bit. They're kind of done with, right? So you kind of had Marvel. They showed up. Disney bought Star Wars, which was sort of the last chance of any good movie franchise, and which I understand. George Lucas, he needed that bag, son. He needed that bag. Go get that bag. So it's all franchises are just going to be bought by Disney. Either if they're not right now, they're going to at some point. They have so much fucking money. And they've kind of ruined the quality of all their projects, right? So people kind of stopped showing up to the movies, even pre-pandemic. Then you had the pandemic, which really kind of set the movie theater scene sort of. It's not good. I don't know if you've gone to the movies recently, but it's no longer like you can walk up and just watch a movie. You got to like go to like a backroom closet. And it shows you like a map on your phone. Then you gotta like blow this guy, and then you come out and like he comes on your popcorn. It's very strange going to the movie theaters now. It's not the same experience that I had when I was going to movies when I was a child, where like my dad would look at me and go, "Hey, let's go see a movie." We didn't have any plans to watch a movie that day, and we would just show up, buy a ticket. Tickets weren't $13 per ticket. And you would like watch a movie. You'd watch Avatar or like The Dark Knight in theaters, which was pretty cool, may I add, right? And Pixar was still around, which, Pixar got bought out by the one and the only Disney. So film was already sort of downhill. The pandemic kind of pushed it off its fucking knees. The only thing left standing for film was sort of streaming services, and SAG kind of kicked that out the fucking window as well. Because these actors are fucking greedy. Because the reality is, you never really see, like, Bryan Cranston or Leonardo DiCaprio helping out new upcoming actors. You never really see that. Or, like, Margot Robbie isn't really trying to help out new upcoming actors. And that's sort of like, that's the problem, right? Is that Robert Downey Jr. gets paid $14 million to sort of just pretend to be Iron Man, which most of it is just, him recording in a green screen. And that's most of his scenes. And it's not good, because then you get, people like who have been in the industry for a very, very, very long time, and they're not getting really paid any money. And a lot of people, I'm not saying that the executives of Netflix and Hulu, they don't take some of the, most of the money either. But I'm saying a lot of people kind of overlook the amount of paychecks that go to some of these top actors. They just do. They don't get paid fairly, if I may add. They don't get paid. Wes Anderson, this guy, he pays his actors $4,600, and that's it. You get $4,600, and it's $4,600. It's not a lot of money for an entire movie. You're basically making minimum wage, if that. And he has some of the best movies of all time. And I think this is a big problem. Is always who is getting paid and who isn't. With everything. That was the thing with the Olympics, right? The Olympic athletes, they don't get paid. But they have to go off and do sponsorships and shit like that, so then they get paid, which I've always recommended for some of these actors doing, is start a podcast. start a podcast, start doing stand-up comedy, then you'll get paid. But a lot of these actors, they don't want to do that. So they kind of wrote out a lot of these, I'm telling you, these projects, these next couple projects, these streaming companies are going to play these projects that aren't going to come out way more safe. They're going to play it way, way, way more safe than they have been playing, where they kind of gave everyone fucking a chance. They're going to start to give people zero chance. It's just not, it's not going to work anymore. They're not going to do it. And again, this kind of goes back to the whole hip-hop thing, is hip-hop's also kind of on a downcline. There aren't a lot of new upcoming hip-hop artists that are respected. Other than Lil Yachty. Lil Yachty's very respected. And, all these littles. I actually looked up Lil Yachty before this podcast started, and I'm just going to look up Lil. And if you look up Lil, you'll see, you got Lil Peep, Lil Tay, you got Lil Murda, actor, you got Lil Yachty. The amount of littles alone is just Lil Durk. It's a little much. All these littles are a little much, if I do say so myself. And it is a little the rapper's fault, right? And let's be serious about Lil Yachty here. He's sort of contributed the most to hip-hop going in a downward spiral. A little bit. Just like a little bit. And also, if you look at sort of what stand-up comedy is doing and what the atmosphere of stand-up comedy is, you have Tony Hinchcliffe, maybe one of the best comics out right now that's most respected. He has a whole show, right, dedicated to letting new comics come up and talk shit for a minute. And that's really big for getting out new comics, and you've already seen comics blow up from it, like Cam Patterson, and you have Hans Hinchcliffe, you have Hans. You get a bunch of these different guys, William Montgomery, who are all blowing up from Kill Tony. The rappers aren't doing this. The hip-hop artists aren't doing this. People in film aren't doing this, where they're letting new people come up. It's sort of capped now. And hip-hop was anyone could do it. That was sort of like the appeal to it, right? And yeah, you have these bunch of like one-piece wonders like Sexy Red, and you have Ice Spice. Ice Spice seems like she's here to stay. I'm not gonna lie. But some of these people who have one-hit wonders, they're not gonna last, and they're not one-hit wonders like, oh my god, this is amazing. It's like skeet, like it's not these people. They're not gonna. Unless they evolve and grow, and evolving and growing though, that's really hard. That's like a lot of work. And you got to be a certain type of human being to do that. I don't think a lot of these one-piece wonders are going to do and evolve and put in the work that, makes a Kendrick Lamar. Is that wrong to say? Is that wrong to say that Sexy Red might not turn into Kendrick Lamar? Is that wrong? Is that wrong to say? I feel like I'm coming for people's necks right now. I think in my own mind, I'm being fair. I think I'm being fair. But of course it's not in a good spot right now. But there's no reason it isn't in a good spot. That's the thing with hip hop, is like you had an entire year of people being kept trapped in their houses, and hip hop is dying? You think people would be listening to hip hop? But they're not. It's boring. And mumble rap and this sort of trap music, these kids, they're growing up a little bit. And people keep talking shit about Gen Z. The generation after Gen Z, whatever they are, Gen A, I guess it resets or whatever the fuck. These kids, they're going to be mentally retarded. All of them. I mean, pretty much everyone from Gen Z is already retarded, no matter what they're retarded from. You know, the vaccines, a lot of people think the vaccines are going to make people retarded. A lot of people think social media is going to make people retarded. A lot of people think that the overprescription of Adderall and, these serotonin pills that are meant to cure depression, quote unquote, even though that everyone who gets on a serotonin pill shoots up a fucking school. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, and there's not really a course of change that I'm seeing, that a lot of people aren't really seeing. It just seems like it's gotten a lot worse. Quite frankly, it seems like the generation after me is going to be more addicted to social media rather than less than addicted to social media. And it seems like they're going to be given more Adderall, perhaps less than Adderall. And, I mean, the vaccines, well, there's a lot of those coming, baby. And I don't know if vaccines are causing autism. But I'm not willing to rule it off the table yet until RFK says so. So I'm not saying anything, but I'm not saying anything either. So calm down, you fucking whatever. I don't care. On both sides, there are going to be people who are like, he knows the vaccines are causing autism. And I'm like, well, relax. And then me saying, like, he thinks the vaccines are like... Relax on that side, too. Please. Both ends. Calm down. But the music is going to get worse. It just is. The music is going to get worse. Marvel is not going to... They're not going to change courses and start suddenly making fantastic pieces of art. Star Wars is like kind of there, I guess. Maybe. They're treating it with more respect than Marvel is, that's for sure. But it's still, Obi-Wan kind of did suck a lot of ball sacks. So it's done with a little bit. But although a lot of things are dying, a lot of things like rock. I know, the rock scene, the rock music scene, is that okay? What's that like? Remember, has anyone asked Dave Grohl what he thinks about the rock scene? You remember Dave Grohl? He was in a band with a guy called Kurt Cobain. And he started a band called Nirvana. And then Kurt died, so he started another band called Foo Fighters. And then a guy from that band called Foo Fighters died as well. What does Dave Grohl think about the music industry right now? Does he think it's great? Does he think it's going in a good direction? What does my boy Dave Grohl think about? His opinion doesn't matter as much as Lil Yachty, who's created Broccoli. But I'm interested to hear Dave Grohl's perspective on what that looks like. But the thing is again, movie theaters are dead. Film is dying. The hip-hop scene is dying. The rock music scene has been dead for, 30 years, basically. Not really 30 years, but you get my fucking point. Don't correct me. This is my podcast, faggot. So, it's a little, all these art forms, these cute art forms of like hip-hop, rock music, film, TV shows, movies, they're all kind of done a little bit. They're all kind of done a little bit. It really, Ozark and Better Call Saul really is the last two good TV shows. It really is. I know that I've said this on this podcast before, but there's a reason why the SAG strike happened right after Ozark and Saul finished. Literally the year after Saul and Ozark ended, they were like, time for a SAG strike. Because the reality is, if the SAG strike happened before Ozark and Saul ended, they would have been like Jason Bateman and Vince Gilligan would have looked at everyone and been like, I don't think so. I don't think so. But that's the truth, is, the good shit is going to stay. They have more of what to say. I don't really know what that point meant, but it is true that, Ozark and Saul kind of dictated when this SAG strike was going to happen or when it wasn't going to happen. And Lil Yachty, I'm telling you, isn't Saul or Ozark. So I'm guessing that hip hop is going to be dead within the next 5 years. Marvel is going to keep going until absolutely every single person has stopped watching, which is going to be never, because there's always going to be 3 virgins who are going to keep watching everything Marvel releases. TV shows are going to be dead because, quite frankly, the writers kind of suck. And quite frankly, they like the writers. They did write season 3 of Stranger Things. We can't let them forget that. Maybe they should go a couple years with no paycheck. Like, if you had any contributions to season 3 of Stranger Things, I think you should go a couple holiday seasons with no money. And that's just what it is. Because maybe if you made and writ good shit, people would keep watching. And maybe you could get paid more. But the reality is people don't watch that stuff. But again, going back to like Tony Hinchcliffe and what they're doing, right? Like Joe Rogan, the other big guy in stand-up comedy, he opened a fucking comedy club in Austin. And it has people on his podcast and then promotes them to an absurd level, like to where you don't know someone's name, and then within 3 months they're a household name, like Shane Gillis, like him. You don't see a guy like Shane Gillis come out of the fucking woods. I mean, he got banned from SNL, and then all of a sudden, he's on stage with Dave Chappelle. I mean, it's a little crazy. It's a little crazy how good the comedy scene is doing right now. And it again goes back to everything else kind of sucks. And video games are pretty good. So I'm telling you, by the end of this decade, it's going to be stand-up comedy, podcasts, and video games. That's it. That's all it's going to be. And football, because nothing's going to get rid of football. Even though how many motherfucking football players beat the shit out of their wives to almost obliterate pulp where they can't walk anymore. It won't matter. Football is fucking here to stay, and it's never going away. Same thing with MMA. MMA seems like it's growing in popularity. It's going to be MMA football. We're going to get a Quentin Tarantino movie and a Christopher Nolan movie every 3 years. And then you're going to have podcast and stand-up comedy. That's it. That's the only art that you're going to get in America. Because rappers, they don't give a fuck. Because the people who we decided to blow up, like Lil Yachty and Lil Malibu, they're going to be dead. They're going to be gone. They're going to kill themselves. They're going to run out of money. Or someone's going to kill them because of how mentally unstable this country is. It's not going to go well, is what I'm saying for art. And I don't think that this is good for comedy either. Because if comedy's the biggest thing, right, and comedy works best when it's a little niche. It's very good right now and sort of where it was at in the 2010s and where it was in the 1980s, where it was kind of big, but not too big, where if it's the mainstream, if comedy is the mainstream media, then we, as the rules of comedy, we have to make fun of the mainstream. So making fun of comedy, it's not going to go well. There's only so many Amy Schumer jokes you can make, okay? There's only so many times you can make fun of Borat and how hacky he is. It's just true. Man, my wife, well, look at that hacky comedy. Like, there's only so many times you can say how fucking hacky some fucking comics are, right? Carlos Mencia, we can only talk about him so many times until it's like a little like, hey, enough. We only talk about Pete Davidson's butthole eyes for a couple more months before it gets old. I'm telling you right now, comedy should and kind of needs to stay niche, but all the other art forms suck. No one watches the news anymore. Nobody is watching, like, basic things, right? No one reads the newspaper anymore. No one does that. No one watches the news. It's all podcast-based. So now people are getting their information through podcasting, which is right next to comedy. Let me tell you something. actual real information, okay, and real journalism should not be right next to, like, Dave Chappelle and Joe Rogan. It's not good. It's not good. And I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I'm not saying that that should be the only primary way that the country gets its news. It's not. This is an equation that doesn't have a good outcome. It's just not going to work, really. But that's my 2 cents on art in America. And since there's nothing really else to talk about, again, it's there was one thing, right? There was some sort of war going on with the Israel. Something Israel. Like it seems like a new social media app. It's like Israel and this, weird group or whatever. They're having conflicts about transgender children. They're having some sort of serious debate about if trans kids should be able to get surgery or not. But I don't really want to go in on it because it seems, a little, I don't think I have the full picture, really. Oh, wait, hold on, what? Did I hear someone shout through my camera saying I should dive into the Israel-Hamas situation? Did someone say that? Is that my schizophrenia talking? Or I think someone said that. So we're going to go in. I guess I will for whoever said that, or if it was in my brain. Who knows? It might be my schizophrenia. Either way, the Israel and Hamas situation is going to be held off until I talk about Matthew Perry. Because Matthew Perry was single-handedly the biggest actor for an entire week where everyone cared about him. Everyone pretended to care about Matthew Perry. No one even knew what he was doing. No one knew what Matthew Perry was doing for like an entire 10 years. No one knew where he was. No one knew what restaurants he went out to. No one knew if he watched Saul or Ozark, which is more importantly the big question. And then everyone collectively decided that they were the biggest friends of friends for an entire week while the Israel and Hamas situation was going on. It was a little funny to see like children in Palestine starving and having you see, I don't know if there's a word for it, but like live PTSD being formed in someone's brain. Like as an event is happening, you're sitting and you're watching like this is going to leave a mark. This is going to leave a mark on the brain. You know what I'm saying? And then the next reel or story or slide or whatever fucking social media word bullshit, it was like, rest in peace Matthew Perry, who died in a jacuzzi. It was a little ironic. It was a little ironic. And then before that, like a month before Matthew Perry died, this is what I wanted to bring up. We had Hector Salamanca die from Breaking Bad and Saul. Mark Margolis? Is there a way for someone else to pronounce his name so I don't sound retarded? Mark Margolis. Either way, it doesn't matter what his name was. The reality is, though, is I think, this is my opinion, my personal forte, is I think Hector Salamanca, the performance was maybe a little bit better than whatever Matthew Perry did during Friends. Just like a little bit. It took a little bit more hard work, probably. Took a little bit more getting into character. Took a little bit more memorizing the lines. And whatever. He was on TV longer as well than Friends was. But the guy from Friends died, and no one cared about him, which was, it was silly. It was, I mean, whatever. Hector Salamanca dies. Whatever. It doesn't matter, really. I mean, according to everyone else, not to me. This is according to social media. It's just a little funny to see, again, what matters and what doesn't matter, right? So Hector Salamanca dying, everyone's like, man, whatever. Israel and Palestine happens, they're like, we have to talk about this. And then Matthew Perry dies, and we're like, we have to talk about this. It's just a little, I don't know. It's a little, like, what people care and don't care about is just a little silly. It's just a little tee-hee, little tee-hee. But let's talk more about this, because this is really what I'm going to talk about with the Israel and Palestine stuff. Is, again, I want to establish this. I'm going to take the same stance I took on the Ukraine and Russian, and I said this about the Ukraine and Russian war, or whatever that is. Really, is it even happening? Is that happening still? Is Russia and Ukraine even at war still? No one's posted about that for about 7 years, okay? I think people posted Russian and Ukraine before they did COVID, okay? It feels like Russia and Ukraine happened before COVID, which it didn't. I know it didn't, but it certainly does feel like that. But this Israel-Palestine thing, I'm going to give my take on it, which is the exact same take on the Russian-Ukraine war. All right? Are you ready? Are you ready? I don't think you're ready. I'm going to take a dramatic sip of my drink. Another one. All right, so here it is. And I know a lot of people are just going to want me to say, like, burn the Jews. A lot of people are going to want to hear, like, whatever I'm going to say right now, a lot of people are going to want to be like, say you'll burn the Jews so that we can just, like, take that clip out of context so we can cancel you, which, by the way, bring it on. Bring on the cancellation, please. I've been saying burn the Jews now for like 3 years on this podcast. I haven't stopped saying burn the Jews. And it doesn't get any publicity, and I don't get canceled because I don't go to college. So Ben Shapiro doesn't care about Ben Shapiro doesn't care about anti-Semitism if it doesn't come from the college campuses. Anytime a college campus brings up anti-Semitic thoughts, he's all over it like fucking Sherlock Holmes. But God forbid, I've been here for 3 years, haven't gone to college. I'm anti-Semitic as anti-Semitic gets. And God forbid he won't talk about my podcast and how I shouldn't be recording. And please, Ben Shapiro, fucking make fun of me. Fucking have an hour segment about how fucking disgusting I am. Because I will be so offended. I will care so much. I might not upload again. I might not upload. It might work. Even though that I'll probably gain, thousands of followers, and people will probably actually start to notice me. I might actually start to make some money from being canceled, quote unquote. Whatever. It's fine. Cancel me, Ben. But again, I'm not at a college campus complaining, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. I know I said I was going to give my opinion on Israel, and I kind of am. I'm kind of going off topic here. This is 20-year-olds podcast. Get the fuck over it. I'm kind of all over the place. And it's my first time back, so fuck off. So it's a little, I don't know though. I can't seem to get canceled for all these things that people seem to have problems with. I've been saying on my podcast for a long time I don't like my girlfriend. She's Jewish, and God forbid, I would love to throw her off her fucking balcony. But so I'm up there with the anti-Semites. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really. I'm clearly fucking joking. But The reality is, okay, with the Israel-Palestine conflict, which there is a point to what I was saying, which Ben Shapiro kind of fetishizes the college campuses a little bit, but whatever. There is something to be said, though, right, about 20-year-olds talking about this subject, which I've always sort of tried to stay away from this problem, which is admit that I don't know what's going on. Because I'm not there. I haven't had long, extensive conversations. And by the way, the amount of conversations that I would have to have about Israel and Palestine to actually know what's going on, I would have to talk to 20 people for at least 3 hours. And by the way, there's 20 people that have to be extremely intelligent on all different sides. So it would have to be like Ben Shapiro. I would have to talk to him for 3 hours. I would have to talk about someone in the U.S. military who went over here who saw it. I would have to probably talk about someone in the Israel military. I would have to talk about someone in Hamas. I would have to talk about which I don't think Hamas would come on this podcast. Unfortunately, I don't think a member of Hamas would come on this podcast, even though that I would be desperately willing to have them on, not because I support Hamas in any way, but just because of the views, because I'm that hungry for views. And I would, I'd thumbnail it. I'd thumbnail like him blowing up a hospital on my podcast. I would thumbnail like it would be the first title of any podcast, even though I don't have titles on this podcast. It'd be like Kpush joins Hamas? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Like I would make it super clickbaity. But no, I would have to talk to everyone from every different side to actually know what the fuck's going on. And a lot of 20-year-olds don't say this. They don't say it, especially early 20-year-olds. They just think sort of they know what's going on. This is the same thing with like late teenagers. They know everything that's happening, which is sort of something I've always stayed away from, which is like you don't know fucking anything. You really don't. I mean, I remember from COVID, when COVID first happened, I thought the lockdowns were like a good thing. Because I was told this. I was like, yeah, no, the lockdowns, they're going to like help people, which they didn't. They didn't do that. But again, like, so I'm always very hesitant to go, let's do this. This is my opinion and it's right. I don't know what the fuck is going on in Israel and Palestine. Really, okay? And I'm not going to do 9 hours of research to kind of come up with this bullshit answer, which is probably going to be wrong anyways. I refuse to do any of that. So most of the, and here's my other opinion, right? Is number one, I don't know what's going on, but number two, it's not good. That's my opinion. I know. Pretty offensive over here. Pretty crazy opinions over here. But my personal opinion, if you have to ask me, is number one, I don't think any 20-year-old knows what the fuck is actually going on. And number two, it's not good. It's not good what's going on. I think both of those things a lot of 20-year-olds can say. And I think that that's a fair answer if you ask a 20-year-old, hey, what's going on in Israel and Palestine? Because, by the way, this is like a conversation for adults. I know we've gotten to this idea that teenagers are like allowed to transition their bodies or whatever the fuck. And teenagers are like smart as shit and they know everything. I know like a lot of my generation has sort of felt this way, but I kind of go the other way where it's like, can some conversations just be between adults? Can like abortion just be an adult conversation? Can the Israel and Palestine conflict just be a conversation for adults? Can the Ukraine war simply be about with adults in the room? We don't need 20-year-olds going in and stating their opinion. It's not needed. It's not. I am telling you this right now. No 20-year-old is going to say something about the Israel. If you're 40, okay, No 20-year-old is going to say something to a 40-year-old, and that 40-year-old is going to go, huh, I never thought about it like that. Because 20-year-olds are dumb as fuck. They just are. They're stupid, they're idiotic, and they're impulsive. And so I'm mainly going to be talking about that when it comes to the Israel and Palestine thing, is sort of the 20-year-olds' reactions. The 40-year-olds is like, whatever. The Ben Shapiro thing where he's going on every day on his social media being like, we need... it's not... He doesn't talk like that. It's more like, we need to invade Israel and Palestine and help them out. It's desperately needed that we need to go in there and save the fucking country. Or whatever the fuck he's saying. It's like... This is one thing I will say about the Israel and Palestine conflict is that we might need to be careful with our approach. We might, I know. This is my 3 crazy opinions is, number 1, be careful. Number 2, I don't really know what the fuck's going on because I'm 20. And number 3, it's not good. Those are my 3 opinions is proceed with caution, shut the fuck up, you don't know, and bad. Those are my 3. If I was to sum up my opinions on the matter as a 20-year-old white guy, that would be it. But I do have a couple opinions with other 20-year-olds posting about this conflict on either side. I don't know where to start because there's a lot of things to dive into on this. But I think this is a good place to start where you're seeing other 20-year-olds, specifically Jewish women who are 20, young Jews who are 20 years old, and I happen to follow a lot of these young buck Jews who are from Easton, Massachusetts, because Easton, Massachusetts, okay, where I was located, Newton, Easton, and Sharon, all these towns in Easton are basically Israel. They might as well, the amount of Jews located in these areas is honestly a little insane. It's a little insane. Okay, and not saying that they don't have a right to be there, not saying they can't live happily there, even though I'm the biggest anti-Semite ever, by the way. But I'm not really. That was a joke. It was not a good joke, but fuck off. They have a right, there's just a lot of them there. So I follow a lot of, these Jews on Instagram. And the way the comparison between their TikToks and their Instagram stories is insanity. It's insane. It's borderline. Like, this should be enough to get you thrown into a mental hospital. That's how crazy it is. That is how brutally insane. Because you'll see these 20-year-old Jews who are like, the Jews are in suffering. The Jews, they're in suffering. And this is as bad as the Holocaust. And you wouldn't understand unless you were a Jew. And I want you to stop talking about the matter, and we need to support Israel, and we need to put our differences aside to support the Jewish religion. And they'll say something like that on their story, right? Or they'll repost because they don't have, any original thoughts ever. No 20-year-olds have original thoughts. Except me. I'm the only one. And they're all great. All my thoughts are great. But they're just reposting something on Instagram. And then you'll go to their TikTok. These women who are apparently in mourning, who feel like they've gone through a day of the Holocaust, who feel like it's so important that every second on social media is being talked about Israel. Then you'll go on their TikToks, and they'll be like, stick your tongue out for the picture. You're so pretty. You're so popular. And it's like, what's going on here? Because they're like doing trends on TikTok where they're like shaking their ass and bending over and twerking, which I don't have a problem with. By the way, I think Jews have very nice asses. I think Jewish women in particular have mucho ass, but it, I mean, which again, so twerk away on TikTok, but then you can't go from like, bend that ass over, let that coochie breathe. Like, you can't go from that to like, the Jews are in mourning, and this is as bad as the Holocaust, and if you don't stand with us, so help me God, I will show up at your... And it's like, yo, ladies, calm down here. And then again, you'll go back on their TikToks, and it's like, well, I don't know another TikTok relevant song, but you get the point. They're just doing like TikTok dances, right? And it's like, you can't do TikTok dances and then yell at other people on another social media platform for not talking about Israel. It's not a good look, and people are not going to take you seriously when you do these things. And you go, Chris, no one's going to take you seriously. Good. I don't want to be taken seriously. I've made it an effort in my life for people to not take what I say seriously. So I'm going to add a couple dick jokes when I speak or whatever the fuck. But the reality is that you're trying to be like a deep person. You're trying to get people to listen to you. You're trying to get people to change your mind, right? And it's like, could you imagine if any other activists did this in any other decade? Like, could you imagine, like, if Rosa Parks, like, after, could you imagine if Rosa Parks, after she didn't sit on the back of the bus and she sat in the front of the bus and she was arrested, could you imagine after she got out of jail, she started sending a video around of her of like, stick your tongue out for the picture, you're so pretty, you're so popular, and like she's doing like a thirst trap where she's like doing her makeup and like sticking out her tongue. It'd be like, what's going on? Or, I know another one. Of like right after like Martin Luther King gave like the I Have a Dream speech, right? And then afterwards he mailed everyone a video of him being like, what is it? How does that shitty TikTok sound go? It was like, bitch, you know I am sexy. Don't call, just text me. I am that girl. TGIRL. Like, it'd be like, what is going on here? What is going on here exactly? It's too easy to twerk on social media and also be an activist at the same time. Okay, you can't mix tragedies with trends. It won't work. It's never gonna work. And this happened right around with Halloween. So as they're like, doing this thing with twerking on TikTok, they're also like posting pictures of them at like Halloween parties half naked, and then next to it is like a video of Hamas blowing up a hospital. It's like that doesn't sit well with anyone. Or they had that one sound. They had that one sound on TikTok, and it was huge. It was a big sound, right? And I know where I can get this sound. Give me one quick fucking second. Just give me one quick second, dude. Right? Just give me one quick fucking second, right? It would be like, no, I don't have it. I lied. I don't have the sound. I'm sorry. I fucking lied to you. I don't have the sound. I don't know where I can get it. But, it's like the Duel of the Fates. Yeah, I just flipped a switch. And it was like a Star Wars song, and they were, they would do like a video of them being ugly, and then it would be a video of them in their Halloween costume. And it was like, you can't then, after you do that, talk about Israel and Palestine. It's not It's not going to work. I know this guy who went to like a concert and he posted pictures of this concert, and he met the guy and he was like, dude, look at my tattoo I got of you. And then right in the story, it was like, please don't stop talking about Israel. Please don't stop talking about Palestine. Don't let this become another trend. We can't let this become another trend. It won't work if we let this become another trend. And it's like, dude, you just posted like a corny video of you begging a musician to look at your tattoo that you got of him that he does not care about. It's like you can't do this. And this is the same thing they did with George Floyd. I don't know if you remember, they'd be like, oh my God, it's like coronation, or it was whatever they said, like quarantinecation or some dumb, they mixed vacation with like quarantine or coronation or something like that. And then they'd be like, look at George Floyd and how the police murdered him out in the street. And it's like, look, you can't use words like coronation and also talk about ACAB. It doesn't, it's not a good look. But to be fair, I think all 20-year-olds should stop talking about Israel and Palestine on social media. I think they should stop twerking on TikTok and on Instagram and then also posting Palestine. You can do one or you can do the other. You can't do both, unfortunately, ladies. Again, I support the twerking videos way more than I do the Palestine post. I just do. It's just a matter of fact. It's who I am. But thankfully, I have come up with the solution. I have come up with the solution for the Israel and Palestine conflict. And it's a pretty simple solution. I'm surprised no one has thought of it yet. I really am. Is the Jews, to my understanding, I might get some of this wrong, but the Jews, they want temples. They want the temples that are located in Israel or some sort of site monuments because they need the Kyber crystals. They need the Kyber crystals to power the Jewish space lasers in outer space. Which is really what makes, like, when they talk about why Israel and the Palestine conflict is unfair, they don't ever really mention the Jewish space lasers, but we all know they're there. And they need these crystals that come from the Jedi temples located in Israel to power these Jewish space lasers, which I respect, and I think that they have a right to have Jewish space lasers. I'm not against the Jewish space lasers, but to make everyone happy, to make every human being as we can happy in this very hard scenario, we need, and no one's really talked to the Jews about this. No one's really brought this up, but I think that this is a fantastic solution. Take the Jedi Jewish temples located in Israel and the monuments and move them. Pick them up and fucking move them. Like, put them on a boat and we're going to move them somewhere else, okay? So that the Jews get to keep their Jedi temples, which they hold so much value to, which, I respect. And we'll move them to a state of the United States that doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care which state it is. There's a lot of states here. We got over 50 states. We're supposed to be 50 states. We have over 50 states. It's a little much. It's a little much, the amount of states we have in the United States. And we can give the Jews one. I'm sorry to say this. We have so many states in the United States that we can just give the Jewish people one. And that's what we just need to do. I'm sorry, like Alaska. Who's up there? Who lives in Alaska? Nobody. Maybe 7 people at most on a good day. On a good day, there's 7 people living in Alaska. And the reality is we can relocate those 7 people. We just can't. And in fact, Alaska is so big. It's so massive that we could probably just split it up and it'd be bigger than Israel. And, the Jews, and they're right next to Canada and the United States. Boom. Boom. Way better than the Middle East. Okay, and a lot of people, I've talked to my girlfriend about this. She says, well, the Israeli Jews who live there, they're not going to want to live anywhere else. They like living there. And sure, until they see LA. Until the Jews in Israel see Los Angeles and New York City, they're going to want to stay in Israel. As soon as those people figure out that Larry David lives here, and once they meet the genius Jews, really, the Jews who actually matter, like Jerry Seinfeld, he lives here. And once the Israeli Jews figured out that those guys live here, they're not going to want to live anywhere else. It doesn't have to be Alaska. It can be Utah. Who the fuck is in Utah? New Jersey. Who? Joey Diaz? Okay, well, we'll let Joey Diaz keep his house. Although, Israel doesn't have a good tendency of letting people keep their homes. But either way, we can, just let Joey Diaz live in New Jersey, and we can give them New Jersey. We can give the Jews New Jersey. It's a matter of fact. We don't need all these places here. We don't need them. It doesn't need Utah. We don't need Utah. And that might be offensive to Utahians. But the reality is if Utah was destroyed tomorrow, I'm telling you right now, unless you lived in Utah, you would have no idea. You wouldn't even notice. You wouldn't notice for months. You wouldn't notice for like 3 months. So give Utah to the Jews. That's my stance. My stance on Israel and Palestine. Pick up the Jedi temples in Israel. Move them to Utah, and give Utah to the Jews. Thank you. That's my opinion. And let the Jews keep their space lasers. They got to have it. They got to have it. It's theirs. All right? I'm going to get those codes one day. My buddy Sam, he's been teasing me about the codes. My buddy Sam Weintraub, he keeps teasing me about the codes, and he won't give them to me, and I'm going to get them at some point. So I think that's enough. I think that's enough of me talking about it. So what have we learned today? We've learned that all art except comedy and podcasting is going to die. We've learned that people don't really care about Matthew Perry, and Hector Salamanca doesn't matter to people. We've learned that 20-year-olds should shut the fuck up about Israel and Palestine. We've also learned that you can't mix trends with tragedy, and you can't twerk on TikTok and also be a supporter of Palestine or Israel. And we've learned that we don't need Utah, and we should give it to the Jews. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to try and be more active when it comes to solo episodes. But the reality is I probably won't be. And I don't want to promise that, but I will try. I will try more. We will have the podcast where Dominic throws a temper tantrum. That will be coming out. And it will be fun to listen to. And you guys will have a blast listening to it. I love you guys. If you listen to this far, if you send me a screenshot of you getting to this point and kind of sum up what we just talked about, and maybe a fun fact that I said, I'll send you a dick pic. I will. I'll send you a fat cock pic. I don't care what race, what gender. If you're a Hamas supporter, if you're an Israel supporter, if you're a part of Hamas, you're getting a dick pic from me. It is what it is. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been episode 153. Until we meet again, or until we post the Dominic temper tantrum video. Thank you guys so much.